When my teenage daughter said goodbye that morning, something in her voice didn't sound like goodbye. It sounded like good riddance. She hugged me with just one arm, her phone still in the other. And when she turned to leave, she didn't look back. That alone wouldn't have meant much, except she always looked back. She always waved through the glass door before walking down the driveway. But that morning, all I saw was the reflection of her dark ponytail disappearing behind the hedges, swallowed by the fog that hung low over our little street. I remember standing there for a moment, holding my coffee, feeling the warmth fade from the mug as I watched the gates swing shut. It wasn't the usual teenage coldness, that mix of hormones and pride I'd learned to live with. It was something heavier, a silence that hummed beneath the surface. The kind you can't name, but you feel in your bones. Maybe I should have called her back. Maybe I should have said, "Maya, wait. Did I do something?" But instead, I let her go. Because for the first time in a long while, I was trying not to be that mother, the overbearing one, the one who checks her daughter's texts, who worries about every friend, every outfit, every sigh. I was learning to trust her, or at least, I thought I was. The house felt too quiet after she left. When she was little, Maya used to fill the rooms with noise, humming while brushing her hair, asking endless questions from the kitchen table, giggling with friends on speakerphone. Now, at 17, she spent most of her time behind her bedroom door, the light from her phone casting thin blue shadows under the crack. That morning, I walked through the house like I always did, picking up mugs, opening windows, letting the air move again. The smell of her shampoo still clung to the hallway, coconut and mint, the kind she insisted on buying with her own allowance. Her room was half tidy, half chaos, just like her. A pile of clothes in one corner, an open sketchbook on the bed, and a Polaroid stuck to her mirror. Her and her friends at the beach. I smiled at it. That bittersweet smile mothers have when they see proof their child is growing up, even when it stings a little. I'd raised Maya mostly on my own since her father left when she was 8. I worked double shifts, late nights, whatever it took to keep us afloat. For years it was just her and me. Peanut butter sandwiches, bedtime stories, and promises that we'd always have each other. And we did. Until high school happened. That's when she started slipping away. First slowly, then all at once. It wasn't that she became cruel or distant. It was subtler than that. She started editing herself around me. A different laugh, shorter answers, eyes that darted to her phone mid-conversation. She'd tell me, "Mom, it's fine. Don't overthink it." But mothers know. We always know. So when she left that morning without a backward glance, something inside me whispered, "Watch closely." That evening she texted me just once, staying over at Emma's. Group project. "Love you." It was brief, casual, the kind of text meant to sound normal. But Maya never said "love you" in texts. She was affectionate in person, but her messages were usually all emojis and sarcasm. That sudden sweetness felt like a cover, a blanket tossed over something sharp. I almost called Emma's mom. We used to talk, back when the girls were 12. But I stopped myself. I'd promised to give Maya more freedom, to show her I trusted her. So I just sent back a simple heart emoji, and tried to believe it. That night I barely slept. I kept hearing her voice. "Love you," echoing in the quiet house, like a line rehearsed too many times. The next morning I went into her room to grab the laundry basket. I don't know what made me open the closet. Maybe instinct, maybe just habit. But there it was. A suitcase, not the floral one we used for vacations, but a plain black duffel bag, zipped halfway. Inside wasn't her stuff. There were men's clothes, t-shirts too big for her, a pair of sneakers, a shaving kit, and tucked between them, a folded hoodie I'd seen once before, on a boy who used to wait for her outside school. His name was Noah. I froze. The air seemed to thicken, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I reached for the bag again, unzipping it fully. And that's when I saw it. An envelope. On top, addressed in her handwriting. For Mom. My heart thudded in my chest. I didn't open it right away. I just sat on her bed, the letter trembling in my hands, surrounded by the faint scent of her perfume and the echo of every bedtime story I'd ever read her. The sunlight through the curtains painted thin gold lines across the floor. Finally, I tore it open. Mom, by the time you find this, I'll be gone. Please don't be angry. I know you think you're protecting me, but I can't breathe here anymore. I love you, but I need to live my own life. With Noah. We're leaving for the coast. He found a job there. I'll be safe. I promise. Please don't try to find me. Love, Maya. The words blurred. I didn't realize I was crying until a drop hit the paper. Gone. My daughter, my entire world, had run away with a boy I barely knew. And the worst part? She thought I wouldn't understand. For a long time, I just sat there, listening to the clock tick, each second heavier than the last. I felt everything. Fear, guilt, anger, confusion, all tangled together. My hands shook as I tried to think, to breathe. I'd raised her to be brave, to speak her mind. Maybe I'd done too good a job. My first instinct was to call the police. The second was to call her. But my phone buzzed before I could do either. A message from an unknown number. She's safe. Don't worry, no name, no explanation. Just that. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't know who my daughter really trusted anymore. For hours, I sat at the edge of her bed, the letter spread open beside me. Like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding, the message on my phone still blinked on the screen. She's safe. Don't worry. Safe? Those words only made it worse. Safe meant away from me. Safe meant with someone else. I tried calling the number, but it went straight to voicemail. No name, no voice. Just silence. My heart pounded in my chest as I texted back. Who is this? Where is my daughter? No response. I called again. Nothing. After the third attempt, I stopped. My hands were trembling too much to hold the phone steady. That's when I saw the time. 10:17 a.m. She'd been gone for over a day. A mother's mind doesn't wander. It spirals. I thought of everything that could go wrong. Highways, strangers, accidents, storms, every news story I'd ever heard about girls her age. I saw her face in all of them. But beneath the panic, something quieter whispered, a sharper thought. Why didn't she trust me enough to tell me? By noon, I forced myself to move. I made tea, though my hands shook too much to drink it, and started pacing the kitchen. The floor creaked under my bare feet, each sound a reminder of how empty the house felt. Everywhere I looked, there were traces of her. A chipped mug she loved, a hairband on the counter, her sneakers by the door, the white ones she wore every day. She hadn't taken them. That detail sank in like a stone. Maya never went anywhere without those sneakers. So if she didn't take them, did she really leave on her own terms? The thought clawed at me. I went back to her room and looked closer at the duffel bag. Beneath the clothes, I found a small notebook. One of those cheap spiral ones she used to doodle in. The first few pages were sketches of sunsets. Eyes, random shapes. But halfway through, I found words. Noah says we'll be free soon. He promised I won't have to come back. Mom won't understand, but she doesn't see the real me. The handwriting grew messier. The lines rushed and uneven. My breath caught. Noah says we'll be free soon. Free... from what? I decided to call Emma's mom. Maybe she'd heard something. Her name was Lorraine, a soft-spoken woman who'd always been kind to me, back when the girls were inseparable. When she picked up, her voice sounded tired. Oh, hi, Claire. It's been ages. Lorraine, I said, trying to sound calm. I just wanted to check if Maya's still there. She texted last night saying she was staying over for a project. A pause. Then softly, oh, she's not here, sweetheart. Emma hasn't seen her since last week. I felt the blood drain from my face. Are you sure? Yes, I'd have told you. Is everything okay? I swallowed hard. Yeah, must be some mix-up. But my voice broke on the last word. When I hung up, the house seemed to tilt. She'd lied. My daughter had lied straight to my face. And to everyone else. I wanted to scream. But what came out was just a whisper. Why, Maya? That afternoon, I drove to the place she mentioned in her note. The coast. It was 3 hours away. I didn't have a plan, just a mother's instinct, and an address I'd once seen scribbled on an envelope in her backpack. Seaview Apartments. The drive was a blur of gray highway and rain. My hands clutched the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. At one point, I had to pull over, just to breathe. I kept replaying moments in my head. Her laughter at breakfast, her slamming her door after arguments. The time she cried because a boy didn't text back. I thought about how I told her to be careful with love. That sometimes the people who say, "I'll protect you," are the same ones who hurt you most. Had I scared her so much that she couldn't come to me? By the time I reached the coast, the rain had stopped. The ocean stretched out like dull silver beneath the cloudy sky. Seaview Apartments wasn't the kind of place a teenage girl would choose. Old cracked walls, a peeling sign, and that faint smell of salt and cigarettes in the air. I parked across the street and waited. My heart pounded every time someone walked by. I must have sat there for nearly an hour before I saw them. Maya and Noah. I saw them. Maya and Noah. They came out of a corner store, laughing. She was wearing his hoodie. The same one from the suitcase. Her hair was damp from the drizzle, and she looked older somehow. But there was something off in her face. A nervous flicker when he put his arm around her. I ducked down in my seat, my breath shaky. I should have felt relief. She was safe, alive, smiling. But something about Noah's body language made my stomach twist. He walked a step ahead of her, always scanning the street, phone in hand. His free arm pressed tight around her shoulders, not affectionate, possessive. When they disappeared into the building, I finally exhaled. I knew I couldn't just storm in and drag her home. She'd shut down. Maybe even run again. No. I had to be careful. So I waited until they were inside, then crossed the street. At the entrance, a woman was sweeping the steps. "You looking for someone?" she asked. I hesitated. "My daughter. She's visiting someone here. A boy named Noah." The woman frowned. "Noah, brown hair, leather jacket?" "Yes." She clicked her tongue. "That one's trouble. Loud fights, always short on rent. You sure your daughter's safe with him?" My throat tightened. I'm not sure of anything anymore. When I got back to the car, I sat there staring at their window. I could see faint light moving inside. Shadows pacing, the outline of two people talking. Then I saw her. Maya walked toward the window and stood there, her face catching the glow from inside. She looked right out, straight toward me. For a second, I thought she saw me. My hand flew to the steering wheel, ready to start the engine and drive away. But she didn't move. She just stood there, staring into the distance, her face unreadable. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't dared to before. She wasn't running from me. She was running to him, and she didn't know who he really was. That night, I didn't go home. I parked near the beach where the waves crashed and retreated, like they were trying to breathe for me. The ocean has always had that effect, humbling, almost motherly, but that night, even it couldn't quiet my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face at the window, that blank, faraway look, like she was somewhere else entirely. I wanted to call the police. God knows I almost did. But what would I even say? My teenage daughter ran away with her boyfriend, and I think he's bad news. They'd tell me to wait. They always do. And waiting, that's what kills you. So instead, I waited my own way. By morning, I'd gathered enough courage to act. I drove back to the apartment, parked across the street again, and watched. Noah came out first. He looked older than I'd thought. Maybe early 20s. A fake smile. A cigarette hanging from his lips. Phone pressed to his ear. The kind of boy who's learned how to charm mothers before breaking their daughters. He got into a car, an old grey sedan, and drove off. This was my chance. I crossed the street, heart hammering. When I reached the door, I almost knocked, then stopped myself. What would I even say? So instead I tried the handle. It wasn't locked. The hallway inside smelled of mold and cheap cologne. I climbed the stairs quietly, each creak of the wood echoing too loud. Her room, 2B, had the door slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The first thing I saw was her hoodie, the yellow one I bought her for her birthday, crumpled on the floor. The next was her phone, lying on the nightstand. I picked it up. No lock screen. God forgive me. I went through it. The messages were like a trail of ashes. Hundreds of texts from Noah. Noah, don't talk to your mom. She's trying to control you. Noah, I told you, baby. They'll never understand us. Noah, you said you'd prove your loyalty. Don't back out now. Then, Maya, I'm scared. Noah, you promised. Don't make me regret trusting you. My stomach turned. That kind of cold that starts in your bones and spreads. Then I saw a video file. It was only 5 seconds long. A shaky recording of Maya sitting on the bed, eyes red, whispering, "If anything happens, tell Mom I'm sorry." I dropped the phone. The world tilted. My knees gave out, and I caught myself on the edge of the bed. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could see was her, my little girl, caught in something she didn't understand. That's when I heard footsteps in the hall. "Maya," I whispered, my voice shaking. But it wasn't her. Noah's voice came from the doorway, low, smooth, practiced. "You shouldn't be here, Mrs. Clare." He leaned against the frame, smiling like this was all a game. I froze. I was just looking for her. I managed to say, "Oh, she's fine," he said, stepping closer. "She needed space. You wouldn't believe how much she cried about you. Said you didn't listen." Something about the way he said it, casual, cruel, made my skin crawl. "Where is she?" I asked. He shrugged. "Out, with a friend. I can tell her you stopped by, if you'd like." I stood up, heart pounding. "I saw the messages, Noah. I know what you're doing." He laughed softly. "You think you know everything, don't you? That's your problem, always trying to save her. Maybe she doesn't want saving." "She's 17, he smirked. "Old enough to choose." That was it. The moment I realized, this boy didn't love her. He owned her. I stepped closer. "If you hurt her," he tilted his head, "then what? You'll write me one of your famous letters?" My breath caught. "How do you—" "Oh, come on," he said. "You think she doesn't tell me things? She talks about you all the time, about your little secrets, the ones you keep in that locked box in your closet." My blood ran cold. He smiled wider. "Yeah, she showed me. The letters, the ones you never sent. The letters. God help me. The letters." For years I'd written to Maya after her father left. Letters I never mailed, filled with everything I couldn't say out loud. The guilt, the mistakes, the truth about what really happened that night. If she'd shown him those, my heart felt like it was being crushed. "Where is she?" I demanded again. He leaned closer, voice dropping. "You'll see her soon enough." Then he walked out, just like that, and the door clicked shut behind him. I stood there for a long time, shaking, my mind spinning with two truths that now collided like glass. 1, my daughter was in danger. 2, she had no idea what kind of person she trusted. I left the building and went straight to the police. They asked questions. I answered everything. They said they'd look into it. But that wasn't enough. I needed to find her myself, so I went home. I opened that old wooden box in my closet, the one Noah had somehow known about, and pulled out the letters. One by one, I read them again, each one a piece of me I'd tried to hide. In one, I told her the truth. You weren't the reason your father left. I was. In another, I kept secrets because I was afraid you'd hate me if you knew the truth. And in the very last one, written 2 weeks before she disappeared, sometimes I feel like I'm losing you, Maya. Like every day you slip further away, and I don't know how to reach you anymore. Tears blurred the ink until the words disappeared. That night, I wrote one more letter, not for her, for him. Noah, if you ever read this, know that I'm coming for my daughter. And when I find her, you'll wish you'd never touched what I love. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table tracing the rim of my teacup until sunrise. The clock on the wall ticked loud enough to feel like thunder. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to wait for someone else to save my daughter. The police had filed a report, but when I called, they said the same thing they always do. She's likely with someone she knows, ma'am. Teenagers do this. As if love, or what she thought was love, made it any less dangerous. So I started my own search. I drove to the bus depot first. Maya had taken that route before. Once on a school trip to the coastal town 2 hours away. I showed her picture to the clerk at the counter. He shook his head but then paused. Wait, he said. I saw a girl like her yesterday. Pink backpack, right? Yes. I whispered, my throat tightening. She bought 2 one-way tickets to Maple Bay. Left around 6. My heart dropped. Maple Bay. That's where her father used to live. The man who'd walked out when she was 10 and never looked back. And suddenly, everything clicked. Noah hadn't taken her somewhere new. He'd taken her backward, to the place where her pain began. The drive was endless. The highway shimmered under the heat, and my fingers clenched the steering wheel until they ached. Every few miles I imagined her face. Scared, confused, maybe even believing she was doing the right thing. When I reached Maple Bay, I started asking around. Small towns remember faces. At a diner, an old waitress nodded when I showed her Maya's photo. She was here, she said, with a boy. Dark hair, tattoo on his wrist. They ate breakfast. Didn't talk much. Did you hear where they were going? I asked. She hesitated. They asked about the cabins near the pier. The cheap ones. That was enough. The pier was quiet when I arrived. The air smelled like salt and diesel. Wooden planks groaned beneath my shoes as I walked past rows of tiny rental cabins. Chipped paint, half-drawn curtains, and the sound of gulls crying overhead. Cabin number 6 had a light on. I knocked once. No answer. Then again louder. Maya? It's Mom. For a moment, nothing. Then I heard it. The faint scrape of a chair. Then a voice. Go away. It was her. Maya, please. I whispered. Just open the door. Silence. Then the door cracked open just enough for me to see her face. Pale, tear-streaked, eyes swollen. Mom, you shouldn't be here. Oh, sweetheart. I breathed, reaching for her hand. Come home. But before she could answer, Noah's voice came from inside the room. She is home. He stepped into view, barefoot, shirt half buttoned, pretending to look calm. But his eyes, there was something manic there. The kind of confidence that comes from control, not peace. You need to leave, he said. You're confusing her. I looked at Maya. Is that what you want? She bit her lip. I don't know. That broke me. The girl who once fought for her own opinions now couldn't even find her voice. Maya, I said softly. He's not protecting you. He's isolating you. I saw the messages. Her eyes flickered. You went through my phone? Yes, and I saw the video. The one where you said you were sorry. Her breath hitched. He told me to make that, she whispered. Said it was just in case. You made a scene. I turned to Noah. You used her fear against her. He laughed, a low, dangerous sound. You think you're so righteous. always acting like the victim. Maybe if you weren't such a control freak, she wouldn't have needed me. That's not love, Noah, I said, stepping closer. That's manipulation. He moved fast, slamming his hand against the doorframe, blocking me from entering. You don't get to tell me what I am, he hissed. Maya flinched. That was all I needed to see. I lowered my voice. Calm. Controlled. Maya, go outside. Now! Mom. Now! Something in my tone must have reminded her of the mother who used to bandage scraped knees and stay up during thunderstorms. She slipped past him and ran outside. The moment she did, I turned to Noah. You're done, he smirked. You can't prove anything. I took my phone from my pocket, showing him the screen. Actually, I can. You texted her from your number. You coerced a minor. You threatened her family. His face drained of color. You wouldn't... Oh, I already did. The police have everything. I stepped back, voice steady. You might want to pack your suitcase. The one you filled with my daughter's clothes. For the first time, his charm cracked. He tried to speak, but no words came. I left him standing there as the sound of police sirens rose from down the road. Outside, Maya was sitting on the steps, hugging her knees. The sea wind tangled her hair. I knelt beside her. It's over, sweetheart. She looked up at me, eyes trembling. I didn't mean to hurt you. I pulled her into my arms. I know. You just wanted to be loved. We sat there for a long time, neither of us speaking, just the ocean breathing beside us, steady and endless. Finally, she whispered, He told me you'd never forgive me. I smiled sadly. Then he didn't know me at all. That night we drove home in silence. She fell asleep in the passenger seat, her hand resting in mine. Every few minutes I'd glance at her, the way her lashes fluttered, the faint line between her brows. And I'd remember the baby I used to rock to sleep. I realized then, trust isn't something you lose once. It's something you rebuild, one fragile day at a time. And sometimes the hardest part of love is letting your child see your fear, and still standing strong for them anyway. When we pulled into our driveway, I whispered to myself, We're home now, for real this time. The following morning felt like waking up in a stranger's life. There were police cars outside my house, flashing blue lights that made the windows flicker like a heartbeat. 2 officers were speaking quietly on the porch, while my neighbor, Mrs. Langley, stood across the street with her arms crossed, pretending to water her plants, but watching every moment. I used to envy people who lived quiet lives. No scandals, no sirens. Now, I just wanted to disappear. Inside, Maya sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, her hands trembling around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. She looked so small, like she'd folded herself in half. The detective, a kind woman with soft gray eyes, sat across from her. Maya, we just need you to tell us everything exactly as it happened, she said gently. You're not in trouble, but we need the truth to protect you. Maya nodded, her lips trembling. He said he loved me. That Mom was the reason I couldn't be free. Her voice cracked on the last word. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. The officer's tone softened. And when did he ask you to leave with him? The night before, she whispered. He said he'd saved money, that we could start over. He made it sound like it was us against the world. I wanted to reach for her hand, but I stayed still. I didn't want her to feel cornered. Not by me. Not by anyone. When the questioning ended, the detective turned to me. Mrs. Clark, we've taken the suspect into custody. He'll be charged with coercion and unlawful contact with a minor. I nodded. Numb. The word minor hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent so long treating Maya like an adult, letting her make choices, giving her space, that I'd forgotten she was still just a child trying to understand love. After the officers left, silence filled the house again. Then the doorbell rang. It was my sister, Elaine. The one person who never failed to show up when the world fell apart. She didn't say anything at first, just pulled me into a hug so tight it broke something inside me. "I saw the news," she whispered. "They're saying he tried to take her out of state." I nodded. "They don't know half of it." Elaine sighed, brushing her hair back. "People are going to talk. You know that?" "I don't care anymore," I said quietly, "as long as she's safe." But of course I did care. Not about the gossip, but about how Maya would carry this. The shame, the whispers, the looks at school. That's the thing about public pain. It doesn't just live online or in headlines. It lives in the stares of people who think they know your story. For a few days we stayed inside. I cooked her favorite meals, tomato soup with basil, cinnamon rolls in the morning. Anything that made the house smell like comfort again. Sometimes she'd join me in the kitchen, silent but close. Other times she'd stay in her room for hours. On the third day, she came downstairs holding her phone. "They keep messaging me," she said. "Some are being kind. Others?" She handed it to me. I scrolled through the comments. Half pity, half cruelty. Poor girl. What kind of mother lets that happen? "Teenagers don't run away for no reason." I locked the screen. People say cruel things when they don't understand. "But it's my fault," she said, tears welling up. "I lied to you. I hurt you. Everyone knows." I cupped her face in my hands. "Listen to me, Maya. The only people who should feel shame are the ones who took advantage of your trust. Not you." Her shoulders trembled as she cried. I didn't stop her. Sometimes tears are the only language a broken heart speaks. A week later, the detective called again. "Mrs. Clark," she said, "we've confirmed the suspect's prior offenses. He's going to face serious charges. You and your daughter won't have to testify. The evidence is enough." When I hung up, relief washed over me. But it was bittersweet. Justice, when it finally comes, never feels triumphant. It just feels quiet. That evening, I found Maya sitting on the porch steps, watching the sunset. She didn't turn around when she said, "I heard you on the phone." I sat beside her. "Yes. So, it's really over?" "Yes, sweetheart. It's over," she exhaled shakily. "I keep thinking about the things he said. That you didn't understand me. That you'd never listen." I looked at her carefully. Was any of that true? Her voice was small. "Sometimes you want to protect me so much that you forget I'm growing up." It stung. But it was honest. And maybe she was right. "I'll try to do better," I said softly. "But you'll have to meet me halfway." She looked at me then, her eyes red but clear. "I will." For the first time in weeks, she leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat like that until the light faded. Two people learning to breathe in the same rhythm again. In the days that followed, the story drifted away from the public eye. The neighbors stopped staring. The comments stopped coming. Maya returned to school, slowly, one step at a time. She joined a youth art program, something she'd wanted for years but never told me. When I dropped her off for her first session, she turned before going inside. "Thank you for finding me," she said. I smiled. Always. And when I drove away, I realized something simple, but profound. Sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about standing at the edge of fear and still believing they'll find their way back to you. It took months before our home felt like home again. There were still nights when I'd wake up to the sound of a creaking floorboard and panic, thinking she was gone. Other nights I'd find her in the kitchen at 2 a.m., scrolling through old messages, replaying the story she was still trying to make sense of. Healing wasn't a straight line. It was a slow climb. One day of hope, followed by 3 of silence. But I held on to a simple truth. We were both still here. We started doing small things together again. Sunday breakfasts, where she made pancakes too thick, and I pretended not to notice. Evening walks down the same street where she used to ride her bike as a little girl. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was gentle, like space to breathe. One evening in early spring, we sat on the porch watching the rain. The air smelled like wet earth and lilacs. "Do you ever wish things could go back to how they were?" she asked quietly. I thought about that for a long moment. "No," I said finally. "I wish they could go forward, to something better." She smiled faintly. "I like that. In therapy, they called what happened grooming. But in my heart, I called it something else. The theft of innocence, disguised as love." Maya didn't like talking about him at first. She said it made her feel weak, like she'd let him win. So instead of forcing her, I told her my own stories, about mistakes I made when I was her age, about the men I trusted who didn't deserve it, about how strength isn't about never falling. It's about standing up again, even when everyone saw you fall. She listened quietly. Then one night, she said something I'll never forget. "I used to think you wanted to control me, but now I see you were just scared to lose me." Tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. "You're right," I whispered. "And I did lose you. Just for a little while. But you came back." We began to find small joys again. Maya got a part-time job at a bookstore. She started sketching again. Her drawings filled with emotion and grace. I kept one of them framed above the mantel. A girl standing by the ocean, wind in her hair, her suitcase open, empty. When I asked what it meant, she said, "It's me, Mom. I'm not running away anymore." There are moments in life that don't need applause. They just need silence. That was one of them. Months later, the court case ended quietly. Noah pled guilty. He was sentenced to 3 years. When we got the news, Maya didn't say much. She just stared out the window for a long while, then said, "I hope he gets help." Not anger, not revenge, just a quiet wish for something better, even for the one who hurt her. That's when I knew she was healing. A year passed. Our life slowly filled with normal things again. Laughter, burnt toast, music from her room. But I was different. I had learned something the hard way. Being a mother doesn't mean keeping your child safe from every wound. It means being strong enough to stand beside them when they fall. One evening, as I was folding laundry, I found something in the back of her drawer. A folded letter with my name on it. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, in her careful handwriting, it said, "Mom, I know you were scared that day, and I was too. But when you came for me, you didn't just save me. You showed me what real love looks like. I don't say it enough, but thank you for never giving up. Even when I did. Love, Maya." The paper blurred as tears filled my eyes. I pressed it to my chest and whispered, "Thank you, my girl." That night we had dinner together. Spaghetti and garlic bread. Nothing special. But as we laughed about her clumsy attempts at cooking, I realized how much I'd missed that sound. Laughter. Light. Life. I didn't need a perfect ending. I just needed this. A home where we could breathe again. Where trust was being stitched back together, one small thread at a time. Later that night, as I stood by her doorway, watching her draw under the soft glow of her lamp, I thought about that suitcase. The one that had once been filled with someone else's promises. Now it sat empty in the attic, a reminder that sometimes the things we pack in desperation are just lessons waiting to be unpacked in time. I whispered to myself, we can't stop our children from chasing love, but we can teach them what love should never take away. Their safety, their voice, their self. And for the first time in a long while, I went to bed without fear. The house was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet, the kind that follows a storm. You know, my darlings, when I first found that letter tucked behind Maya's drawer, I thought my heart would burst, not from sadness, but from relief. Because sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's a quiet promise, whispered through the cracks of broken things, that says, I'm still here. I used to believe that good mothers protected their children from pain, but now I know better. Good mothers don't hide their children from the storm. They stand in the rain with them, holding the umbrella until the sun returns. If you're a parent listening tonight, and your child has drifted somewhere you can't reach, don't give up. Don't let silence become the language between you. Even if they push you away, even if the door slams, keep knocking, because sometimes all they need to know is that you won't stop trying. And if you're the one who's been hurt, the one still trying to rebuild yourself, remember this: you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. Healing doesn't mean the story ends in light. It just means you've learned how to walk through the dark and still find your way home. So tonight, before you sleep, hold someone a little closer, forgive a little softer, and if you can, whisper a prayer for the ones who are still finding their way back, because love, real love, never leaves. It just waits until we're ready to open the door again. This was Aunt Clara's secret letters, and tonight's letter was about forgiveness, healing, and the kind of love that doesn't give up. Tell me, my dear, if you could send one letter to someone who hurt you, what would you say?